Hi everybody, and welcome to our session today, Audit Independence, Business Challenges and the Role of Technology. I'm Matt Bambrick, Senior Account Manager for Class, and I'm joined by my good friend Clint Estevella, Head of Sales for Cloudoffis. And we're going to discuss these challenges. Hi Clint, how you going? And we're going to discuss these challenges and show how the technology of Class and Cloudoffis can help. So let's just have a quick look at the agenda today. So we just want to have a quick recap on the audit independence guidance and a look at some of the common new business models that we can put in place to combat these changes. And then Clint will take us through these key challenges and a demonstration of the actual software and show us in detail how Class and Cloudoffis can address these issues. In particular, addressing document storage and collating and sharing audit packs, process efficiency with external auditors, and managing preparation and audit cost. And at the end, we're just going to have a bit of a summary and some questions time as well. So just a quick review. So on the audit independence guidance, so the existing rules on independence will be more strictly enforced, and an auditor of a self-managed super fund needs to be completely independent from the accountant or administrator. And I guess going forward, no more so-called glass walls or thin walls within accounting firms, audit and admin divisions. An external audit business cannot be financially dependent on the accounting firm. For example, receive 50 to 100% of their work from one firm or be controlled or run by the same people. Also, the trustee should be choosing and contracting their self-managed super fund auditor. So now let's look at some of the common new business models. So looking at our existing structure at the top, and then on the left, we can see one of the common new business models, a specialist in self-managed super fund admin and self-managed super fund audit to maintain audit revenue in line. So we see the firm and the SMSF admin to the independent auditor, and then external accounting firms can give that firm the SMSF audit. And then on the right, as a second option, we have a firm to focus on their self-managed super fund admin and outsourcing of the audit division. So completely outsourcing the audit component to an independent auditor. What we might do is just have a quick poll. So if we want to load that up, just ask a bit of questions and gain a bit of insight. So if we want to launch the poll. Just give it a bit of time. Okay, we've got our results up here as well. It looks really interesting. All right, now we're going to jump over to Clint just to run us through a couple of the common problems and how we solve them.
Thank you very much, Matt. And thank you everybody for joining. Yeah, really interesting poll. A few auditors, a few admin specialists that are looking to outsource the audit given the changes, and a few looking to keep the audit as well. So yeah, very, very interesting given what's going on. Okay. So I'm going to cover off some of the common challenges that we're currently seeing, and a lot of these are going to be, I guess, increased or exacerbated by the fact that there's going to be this sort of change in the industry with the APES independence changes. So the first one is document management, maintaining the transactions, and then document referencing. So the way we're going to cover this off is I'll talk about the challenge and then what that basically means effectively for the accountant and the auditor. So for an accountant, a common problem is having disjointed documents and transaction processing. So you might have, for instance, all your docs stored in a central repository, and then you sort of update in class as and when you receive those docs, keeping those docs in an unrelated location that doesn't, I guess, necessarily relate to the workflow, to only then pull them out at the end of the year and then sort of process your end of year, sort of almost repeating processes potentially. From an auditor's perspective, where that's potentially a problem, poorly referenced docs that come over from their customers can result in more manual handling. The next challenge is then end of year processing. Okay, so once again, we might have our documents stored in one system. We've got our data in class stored in another system. There could be an external workflow system used to keep track of approvals and query management. Queries could be done on emails, as an example. So having those disparate systems and I guess data storage points can also create some challenges. Again, that can often lend itself to duplication of work. There's also compliance work that can be resource intensive. So conducting the same sorts of compliance checks on every single fund. Again, with the auditor, depending on how much of this work the accountant's done, the auditor has either got to repeat that work, okay, duplicating his work. They might have a very resource intensive compliance type procedure as well, particularly if the state of the end of year that comes across in work papers from the accountant isn't to the the highest quality, as an example. And then again, if there's different systems being used, email, a workflow system, separate to everything else, there could be like a Dropbox or a Google storage type system that's being used as like a portal to get all the documents and data across. Again, disparate systems. It can cause quite a bit of efficiency. And that's, again, the same with collating and sharing audit packs. So if we start with the auditor there first, so if they're getting different processes, different structures, different formats from accountants, if they've got, for example, 5 different customers, that's potentially 5 different workflows that they're dealing with, 5 different processes that they've got to manage, which is, again, obviously quite inefficient. For the accounting side of things, when they're getting their work papers and audit packs ready, you've got, I guess, one of 2 options. You can either reference the full lead schedule, for example, or you can not reference. Whatever you choose, it's going to be resource intensive. Referencing, I guess, is a little bit tedious in referencing each account to a linked PDF, as an example. But if you're not referencing, it's creating, I guess, document handling work, whether that's for your reviewer, if you're an administrator for your external customer, or again, potentially for your auditor. Once again, potentially duplicating a little bit of that work or that manual sort of document handling work, okay? And then just finally, without sort of software or any other systems in place, manual packs, particularly those firms that are still using, I guess, paper files, sharing those packs and making changes is a bit of a challenge, okay? So if anybody spots something that needs to be updated in class, or any reworks that need to be conducted at any point along that workflow, to go into class, regenerate the financials, print off everything, do your pack in Excel or whatever it is quite a lengthy process. Okay, a few more that we've got here is then query and workflow management. So oftentimes once the data and docs has been sent over to either the reviewer or the auditor in your workflow, there's then a process of approvals, tracking queries, either internally from your own staff or externally from your customers or from your auditor. And once again, managing any of those rework requests. Again, if you can sort of imagine, oftentimes this is done through a combination of Dropbox, downloading financials, uploading something else, using emails to communicate and things like that. So disparate systems, once again, aren't helping. And on the auditor's perspective, multiple manual external workflows can cause efficiency and time delays. Okay, so whether it's manual, that's going to cause time delays, or whether there's multiple external workflows that they're having to navigate, that's obviously going to cause some issues as well. And then just finally, we've got managing the preparation cost versus audit. So this is probably a key point for many firms that are going through the change in the next sort of 6 to 12 months. Really balancing the preparation effort versus the cost of what that takes to do, right? So you could spend X amount of hours, however many hours that allow you to be profitable in preparing your work papers. Yes, your auditor is going to love you for it, but what's that trade-off? Conversely, if you sort of don't spend a huge amount of time in that preparation, then you're potentially paying higher fees with your auditor because they're taking on a lot of the risks in that particular file in the way that they get it. From an auditor's perspective, the market's changing quite a bit. I've heard, quite a lot of firms are getting calls from a lot of auditors, trying to sort of take advantage of this change. So it's going to be, and it is quite a competitive market. So that's naturally going to drive auditors to increase efficiencies. Number one, for pricing reasons. Number two, simply just to scale effectively. And then again, once you've got 5, 10, 15, 20 different customers potentially, you're starting to deal with a lot of different workflows. And then that's when, this efficiency and sort of workflow management challenge comes into play. And then the last one here is choosing the right partner. So for an accountant, outsourcing work requires trust in technology as well, process and security. So it's not necessarily just price. I speak to a lot of firms, accountants, again, prepare different sort of types or levels of I guess, work papers. Some firms have got, a pack that they do that's almost perfect for the auditor every single time. If that's the case, an auditor, might be able to give you a sort of, a great price, and they're sort of just going through a sort of tick box exercise. On the other side of the coin, if you don't have that expertise in-house, or if it's, if SMSF isn't a huge part of what your firm does, and you need to outsource that expertise and get advice and all this sort of thing, then, maybe the cheaper option isn't necessarily for you. And an auditor that's got that sort of support, compliance support, advice, access to a partner to give you that advice, all that sort of thing is going to cost you more, but it's going to suit your firm in a much, much better way. All right, I'll quickly hand back to Matt to cover off some of the class features that can help in this context, and then we'll go through a bit of a Cloudoffis demo.
Thanks, Clint. Just wanted to have a quick review of class with some of our specific components relating to this issue and challenge. So as you can see, at the center of class is our over 200 secure encrypted data feeds with our ASAE 3402 certification for audit, meaning our data is accurate when it comes to audit time, making it a nice, smooth transition process. If you would like a data feed health check review with class, then we can absolutely help you out with our account management process. So happy for you to contact us at sales@class.com.au so we can get in contact and have a meeting with you. We also have our daily balance reconciliation of cash and holdings. So a really important part of our feed. We're not just getting the transactions in, we're checking the balance as well. Again, when it comes to audit time, we've got great data in there and great transactional detail, making our reconciliation and end of year process a lot easier. Also, our tax statement automation, which gets the data in more efficiently and accurately at the end of the day. Less manual work means, again, our year-end processes are nice and efficient and automated as much as possible. Integration is always a great part of software, so a very important part of the process at the end. So in particular, what we're going to show is our integration with Cloudoffis after this. So we also have many other integrations in class to help out with our processing at the end of the day. So we might jump over to Clint now, who's just going to run us through a more technical demonstration of his software and show us how we can meet these challenges head on.
All right, thank you, Matt, again. So the first thing I'm going to show as a bit of context before we get into the software itself is really just, I guess, the workflow map of how the data, docs, queries, approvals flow between the various stakeholders and software. Okay, so it is a little bit busy, so I'll just sort of walk you through it. And I guess most firms, whatever state that you're in at the moment, will fall into one of these categories, if you like. So if we start with the center one here, we've got class on the left as to where the data is being punched into. As an example, that could be done by your local team within your firm. That could be done by an offshore team. It also works for your firm, either or. Once the data is punched in class, Cloudoffis can then be used as your DMS, your automated end-of-year processing or workpaper sort of compilation tool, as well as doing some automated compliance checks. You've then got your reviews. All the queries, internal and external, are then reviewed within the software, as with any rework. So that's if, for example, an internal reviewer spots something that the preparer needs to do again. Or even, for example, if you are an administrator and you have an external customer, so i.e. you are doing compliance work for an external accountant or financial planner, that's another approval level. They might find something that needs to be done. All of those kinds of queries and reworks and approval processes are managed within Cloudoffis. Once the compliance is done, and again, that's sort of, a process that goes, originates in class. You might need to go back into class. Your offshore team might need to update. You guys in the Australian offices might need to update something. Resend that job through the approval line back to the financial planner if they need to see it, back to the accountant or administrator. Once the compliance job is done from that side of the fence and it's ready for the audit, there's then an integration with a Cloudoffis auditor. The administrator can then handle that relationship, or the job can be sent to the customer in this instance, so the financial planner, to then look after the audit. Okay, so there's a few different workflows there. Internal compliance with offshoring. External compliance, for instance, if you are one of these financial planning customers that uses one of the larger administrators, for example. Internal and external audit, I guess, is similar insofar as the way that the integration works currently, and obviously this is going to change, but we've got many customers that use both SMSF sorted and audit automation internally, and that's just a simple integration of the documents. Outside of, I guess, where there's not a Cloudoffis user, so for example, if there is no Cloudoffis user on the compliance side, there's an optional portal for the accountant from the audit side, and vice versa. If they're not a Cloudoffis user on the audit side, there's an optional portal that can be generated out of the SMSF sorted side. So really all workflows are covered off, no matter what your situation, to help really integrate, automate and standardize the way that your data, documents, approvals, review points, compliance work, etc., gets managed all the way up and down that sort of internal and external workflow. Okay, so hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of context. I will now dive into the software and show you, I guess, what that actually looks like. I'll just refresh that page. All right, so we're going to start off with SMSF sorted. Okay, so what you're looking at here is I guess a workflow summary, which is your home dashboard that you fall into as soon as you log in. You've got jobs by status. Everybody, every user, I should say, gets their own version of this, and they can sort of see what's allocated to them, how far it is to completion, any internal queries from their internal staff members that have been sent to them, any external queries, which could be your financial planner customer if you are doing compliance work for an external party, or your auditor if you're connected. Okay, so any external firm that you've got a connection to, those queries will arise there. Okay, so to get started, really simple. If we go and connect, we can just simply go and connect to all of our accounting firms. You can just go and generate a portal directly from the software. You can link the business code through class, which they've got to then verify, which then is simply added for security reasons, just to make sure that data is not going into anywhere or other portal that it shouldn't be. We've then got your audit firms. Once again, simply just connect ABN company name and email, and then you can connect to your audit firms. And once we've got all those structures set up, we're basically ready to start a job. Now, the integration with class is fantastic. So we can go straight into import from class. That then takes us to the API connection. You punch in your class credentials, go into class. You'll see a list of all of your funds that you've got in there. Choose the ones you want to import, and then we can get that data into Cloudoffis. Now, once you've created a job for each of these particular funds, so for example, you can see Cloud 2 has got a 2020 job that's been created. The first thing that we do is actually automatically build out a folder hierarchy for you to store all your documents throughout the year. Okay, so I'll just go to a sample fund, Cloud 417. So we build out these 4 folders, again, automatically, permanent. So anything that's from a prior year gets rolled through to permanent, your permanent section. Reports, we pull in a whole bunch of class reports automatically for you. We've then got unsorted, which is effectively your dumping ground, and then we've got the workpaper section. So the workpaper section is effectively the chart of accounts, and that's the hierarchy of folders that we build out for each fund automatically. So if I've just clicked through to shares and listed companies, this fund's got these shares in this particular fund. Okay. So throughout the year, we're really replacing your current document management system. So if we upload the doc, open it up, again, this is really solving that problem that we mentioned at the start of like, where do documents go after you've then punched in the transactions into class throughout the year. So if we grab our little bookmarking tool here, so we actually use a bookmarking tool to bookmark an area of a PDF to a specific account. So rather than just simply a file into a folder in the traditional sense of storage, we'll bookmark somewhere relevant, i.e. the closing balance, and we'll grab the account, save that there. That now gets moved out of the unsorted folder and away into that folder hierarchy. I'll just do another example here. So we can bookmark as many times as we like if we've got multiple reference points. So I'll grab that ComSec statement and tag BHP. I could tag Commonwealth Bank as well. I could leave comments on the document, and this actually gets added permanently to the PDF, even if you download it. And then if I close that, once again, that's now moved into the workpaper folder hierarchy. So up until you're ready to do your end of year, it's really just a storage system that bookmarks interesting areas to a account. Okay. Once we have completed the end of year, period update, financials are built into class, we re-import the data, and then we build you out this fund dashboard. Okay, so a couple of key areas here. So you've got a summary of your documents. So you can easily, for example, see what documents you haven't gotten to and are still in unsorted. You can see that you've actually filed away 16 documents already. So you can easily see the status. You've got the relationship with the staff that's working on the fund. You've got some controls here in the middle to re-import. Really, really great for reworks. So we can, at any point, overwrite existing data. So if you, for example, went into class, updated an account, just one account, if we overwrite the existing data, we'll only change that one account in Cloudoffis. Okay, so that just makes the rework really, really, really simple. You've got a status update, ability to generate work papers at any time. Down the bottom, you've got a summary of your queries and your review points. In the middle is where you'll be conducting your work, or your preparer will be conducting your work. So I'll start off in the financial position and operating statement. Now, the first thing you'll see here is that we've actually got some linked documents to this account. So the simple act of you filing the document away that you get into Cloudoffis, so rather than into another sort of disparate DMS or on your folder hierarchy on your computer, we're now building out a fully referenced lead schedule. Okay, so there's that Macquarie Bank. So if I open that document, I've got that little bookmark that I left, so I know where to look. And if I show you the other document that I tagged, which was the portfolio statement, it opens up to the start of the PDF. It's a 4-page PDF, but if I click on the BHP bookmark, it takes me exactly to where I need to see. Again, the comments that I left 6 months ago, or whenever it was that I got this statement, they're in there as well, and I can read those. Okay. The other way to reference your lead schedule is, and this really is more for the documents that you get at the end of the year. So like that sort of big shoebox. And I know most firms have still got quite a number of funds that get all the documents at the end of the year. Upload all the docs. We've got like an OCR process that reads the PDF and actually reads the content within the PDF. Once we have done that, we can then search the closing balance figure directly from the lead schedule. Okay, that figure then gets searched for and found, and it's been found 6 odd times or 7 times in this file. The reason why it's been found this many times is because we also bring in a whole bunch of these class reports. So you can see here that investment movement summary, revaluation report, investment summary are also brought through. I can see in this instance that the top one is the source doc. I can bookmark that and save it away. Okay, so regardless of whether you get one big PDF, 100 individual PDFs, it no longer matters. Upload it into Cloudoffis, we search for the figure, or you can open it up and just tag and save throughout the year. Whatever way that you want to reference and treat your documents, potentially a huge time saver. Okay, this has then also got benefits for your reviewer, who can then easily come in and click on the bookmarks. If you then have a customer, so if we sort of change direction here and say, okay, let's imagine that I'm an administrator doing this process and I need to not only get it approved internally, but send it out externally. Okay, so if we go back to the job dashboard, actually, I'll go back and use a different job as this example. A little bit like here's one I've prepared earlier. So this is a much busier dashboard. I've got a whole bunch of review points, queries, external queries. And I've already done a whole bunch of work in this particular fund. Okay, now, if I change this particular job as ready for peer review, so the only difference is here I've got an external customer, otherwise it's an internal job, you don't have to do this particular step. But once you've activated the peer review, and again, so long as you've done that connect at the start, where you connect to your customers and connect to your auditors, and we've got all that set up, which we can definitely help you with, obviously, but then your customer will have access to a portal, so financial planner customer, a portal that you've created for them. If we click on that same fund, any of the queries, in this example, there's none, but any of the queries that were arisen would be in this section here. They've got a view to then go through and approve everything that you've done. Okay, so all the bookmarks that you've left there, your customer can potentially leverage those as well. Okay, and then we'll show you in a moment how your auditor can then leverage those. So it really is removing duplicated work, particularly with the document handling. Okay. With those class reports I mentioned, we bookmark them to the various sections. So we've got the investment heading there. So we've brought in and tagged the investment movement summary in the investment summary. So there's about 18 or so documents that we bring in, things like the pension report, member statements, things like that. And we bookmark them to the various sections in the lead schedule. You've got queries. So these are queries that have come through and they're going to be resolved queries in this instance. But for example, and this is in the customer portal, I could create a question to my administrator and submit that. Conversely, so if that's just during the customer review. So if we pop back into the actual portal and refresh, we'll be able to see, if I go to my customer, and you'll be able to see the various questions, question to my administrator that's been raised from your accounting firm. Okay, so for the particular job that you've got internal queries between your own team, queries from your auditor regarding the fund, potentially queries to your customer if you've got a customer. Again, if you're just an accountant and not an administrator doing external work, that's the only thing that changes effectively. Okay. All right. Last thing I'll show you is some of the automated observations that we conduct on each fund. So we've got 17 at the moment, and these have been completed, but I'll show you what they look like. So things like market value check. Class is obviously excellent with their feed. So really this is if there's been something overridden by a user, and then if it doesn't match the ASX is basically what we're red flagging here. Okay, so this particular fund, in this case, it might be just a rounding issue because it's quite close, but we'll red flag that. We'll check the pension limits, so tax effective allocation of the pension payment. Check for any lump sums. We'll check if a work test needs to be done. We'll check the contribution cap limits, etc. If there's any negative balances, contrabank entries in the bank accounts. Income comparison, once again, against the ASX, if there's any benefits paid to members under 60. Again, these are just things that accountants are typically doing these checks on every single fund. The idea is here, we'll do the checks automatically. We'll red flag the ones that need to be red flagged. Okay, and then you can just deal with the exceptions effectively, rather than having to repeat that work every single time. If they're in warnings, okay, so if I just, for example, I can if they're in warnings, it's not going to work now because it's finished, but if they're in warnings, you've got the ability, or your preparer's got the ability to mark them as okay, and then they get moved out of warnings and into good to go. And then the reviewer can easily come in and have a look at what's been marked by the user versus what's been marked by the system. Okay, so just another piece of automation for those checks that you're going to be doing oftentimes on every fund anyway. Okay. All right. The only other component is the review points. So review points are similar to queries. They're really just more like static notes that are created by the preparer for the reviewer. And if the reviewer so chooses, they can mark them as a note to the auditor, and that will then get sent over to the auditor's portal. Okay, so if we can just imagine that this is now, I know why this is not working, because I've got it over in this portal here. I'll actually mark it as peer review, and I need to mark it as complete over in the peer review, so I'm tricking myself in my own workflow. So now that my customers approve that, this is why my portal will start working again. Okay, excellent. So once your customer's approved it, or you've approved it internally, we can then get it over to the auditor. Now, if you don't have a Cloudoffis auditor, we can generate the workpaper pack. Okay, and we build you out a fully linked file. You can choose what to include. For example, if you don't want your internal discussions going to your auditor, take them out. Generate that file. You can generate that at any time. Again, if you need to make any particular changes in class, really straightforward. Make the changes, re-import, do what you need to do, and then regenerate that report. So that looks like this. So just bringing this folder over. So your logo, fund information, whatever data that you've chosen to include, and then you've got a full lead schedule with all the reference points. Again, the bookmarks don't leave. So if you open up this particular document and you want to use the bookmarking tool, it's still there, right? So your auditor can use the bookmarking tool even if they're not a Cloudoffis user, okay? The efficiency is far greater though if they are a Cloudoffis user. So once we mark this job as completed, we've then got the option to send this over to the auditor. Now that'd be normally a list of all your auditors. I've already sent it over to this auditor, so it's only giving me one option, again, out of security. We verify the data with class one more time to make sure that it all matches up, and then we hit submit. That then goes over to the audit portal. Now I'll just run you through what this means for the auditor. Okay, so let's use this particular job. All right, so the audit portal's got a range of automations. The first thing that it automates is a risk matrix. So we've got a list of 7 risk assessments that we do on each fund. You can change these, you can amend them, you can add to them, you can have as many as you want, and you can determine what the result is dependent on your own risk appetite. We've got materiality built in, so we can set up percentages of overall materiality, for instance. You can override those with performance materiality if you so choose. We've also then got similar observations where, from an auditor's perspective, we do similar checks as we did on the compliance side or on the administration side. So things like income comparison, pension limit, market value, benefits paid to members under 60 again. Now, if you send over a query from Sorted based on one of these, the query will come over here. So if you say that it's all good, then at least your auditor knows it's all good. They can check again, obviously, but in order to potentially avoid rework, I should say, then that's a potential process that you can do. Now, in the audit software, the data and checklist is completely customized for the particular fund that you're doing. So for instance, if there's no property in the fund, there's no property checklist. It's completely built out to this list on the left-hand side as the only relevant sections that you really need to go through without any irrelevant components being there. Now, the benefit of the integration with Class and Sorted is the data flows all the way through from Class through to Sorted into the audit platform. We've got documents that come through. So those class reports that I mentioned before automatically come through, investment summary, investment movement summary. Any queries or review points that were made as a note to the auditor come across from your customer. And then once again, the bookmarks that were left by the original preparer when they initially saved the document are able to be leveraged by the auditor. Okay, so it really does eliminate potentially 30–35% of the audit, which is oftentimes working through documents, collating and just sorting through and all that sort of thing. So once we've got all the data, docs, queries nicely presented, that customized checklist is listed down the bottom here. A huge array of tools as well in this completely customizable checklist. So you've got your audit program, which we offer you a fully compliant audit program, but you can amend. Then there's some tools here, if you need to support any part of the program with a document. I know that this is not right. I'm just demonstrating the document drag and drop capability. You can mark that off. You can leave comments, etc. Okay. Just finally, we've got a whole bunch of templated reports, okay, that you can give access to your various customers or generate these reports. So things like management letter, audit reports. So we can generate these with all the default data on a particular fund and to save you some more time. The auditor then goes through their entire workflow does the checklist, if they need to create any communications back to the accountant, they can just add a query, choose the various sections. I'll just put test webinar so we know that that's from here. And they can just generate a query straight back to the accountant, and that accountant will then get this particular query pop up on their test webinar into their portal, and then they can reply and so on. Okay, so really just trying to demonstrate that end-to-end integration all the way through. Once again, and just finally, any reworks that need to happen once the data has been updated in class and resubmitted to the auditor can re-import the lead schedule, or separately to all of that, the auditor can access class directly if they've got a login and check the data for themselves, just as another feature that we've got if you do have those class logins. So there's a range of different options that you've got there to access the data. And then once you've done everything, you can generate that audit file. Again, very, very similar to the way that I showed you the PDF file for sorted. Biggest difference here, though, is we've got the complete audit data, the audit program and checklist, and everything that you've recorded in the audit itself. Okay. So I guess that is really what I wanted to show you. So if we come back to some of these challenges, I guess, the whole reason that we're building a lot of these features is to solve a lot of these challenges. So we've got document management, transaction referencing, so completely now in context. No one does any duplication of work. Everybody gets to leverage off the initial work that the accountant has done. End of year process is standardized. The way that the data combined with class with all of their features and integrations, which Matt covered, combined then with the queries, approvals, documents outside of class in Cloudoffis, then gets sent over to the auditor. It effectively just allows for potentially a very efficient workflow in which they don't have multiple different disparate systems and multiple different external workflows. And again, any kind of sort of query workflow or rework that needs to happen is completely taken care of in the software as well. All right, guys, thank you very much for that. I think we've still got some time. We might just cover off some
There's been
questions.
A few questions in the question box, Clint.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Okay, one question is, I need to find a auditor using Cloudoffis. Yeah, absolutely can help you with that. So we've got a bit of an ecosystem, I guess. So if you can imagine, we've got customers on the accounting side, customers on the audit side. Now, if we're the technology conduit that just, hopefully tries to make life easy between the two parties, regardless of what the position is, we can potentially help. And that even just means, even if you're not needing audit software, to point you in the direction of an auditor using Cloudoffis, and then you can sort of take advantage of the various workflow efficiencies, if you like. So we've got tens of thousands of funds using the software. So yeah, more than happy to point you in the right direction.
So there's another question in the beginning about the cost as well, if you want to have a look.
Yeah. So yeah, the cost sort of ranges anywhere from sort of $60 to $80, depending on quantity, effectively, and that's the only mechanism that we charge. So all the document storage, portals, all that sort of stuff, training, onboarding, implementations, all covered within there. An added benefit, we've got a few firms, audit firms, I'm talking about standardization, that are happy to sort of offer competitive rates for those jobs that have got class combined with sorted, because they know that the back and forth risk is going to be minimized. They know that they've got the technology to be able to scale and to be able to look after their various workflows and sort of almost lock in a, you know, confident estimation of time spent on a fund. Yeah, something again that we could potentially help with.
Just a couple of questions in the open chat box as well. So is SMSF sorted and the audit portal separate packages? Might just need to rehash that.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So there's two specific products and they integrate together, but they are charged separately. Okay, so if you're an accountant that does administration, then, you know, sorted, designed to help you with your particular workflows and increase efficiency. Conversely, if you're an auditor, we've got specific audit package, but then, you know, it makes sense that you sort of remain in the ecosystem. So if you're an accountant using Cloudoffis, it makes sense that you find an auditor using Cloudoffis because then you get the most efficiency.
All right, there was a good question in the beginning that does this mean now that workpapers will no longer be required? And I think I guess the point is that we're not completely replacing them. We've got a more automated process of generating them, right?
Yeah, correct. Look, for funds that, or sorry, for firms, I should say that nothing's going to change. You know, the respective pieces of software try to solve efficiency problems for the respective type of firm, accountant or auditor or division, you know, up until these changes come in. But I think with these changes coming in, there's going to be, I guess, you know, a requirement to potentially change or add a process of what your work papers look like, depending on what your auditor wants. So if you've got a new auditor, you know, you're going to have a new process, a new relationship, you know, there's going to be new standards or, you know, new things that he likes or she likes kind of thing. So the more work that you can do to standardize on your side, you know, potentially the better off it is for both you and the auditor in reducing back and forth, reducing risk and all that sort of thing.
All right, there's probably a couple other questions that we might reach out directly to attendees. For anyone else who thinks about anything after the session, please contact sales@cloudoffis.com.au or sales@class.com.au for any class-related inquiries. Clint, is there anything else you want to
add? That's it, guys. Yeah, as Matt mentioned, let us know if you've got any further questions. And yeah, thank you again for attending, and hopefully we can speak to you soon.
Yeah, there was one last question that said definitely easier doing audit with sorted. So it's a nice question. Thank you for that.
Flash statement. Thank you very much, whoever that was. Excellent.
All right, we might wind it up then.